Welcome to Scoop World Order. We have about 3 days towards the next scrimmage, and we have got a lot of stuff to cover. Is Devin Brown going to take the quarterback job? There's a lot of smoke about that right now. It's absolutely crazy. Some of the stuff that we're hearing. Is it the O-line? Is it his mobility? Is it his playmaking ability? We're going to get into all of that and the other buzz we're hearing from camp. But first, as always, thank you. We're we're thankful and grateful for you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys as always. We always are looking forward to having you guys on our show. Again, we appreciate you guys leaving a like, clicking subscribe, and also clicking that little dinner bell. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on who's going to win this quarterback battle. It's getting a lot closer than I ever would have dreamed it would be. I assumed it was Kyle McCord the whole way. But God, I'm hearing some really, really, really good things about Devin Brown from some people that actually matter. This isn't just observers. This is real people. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm going to bring in my good friend, Nevada Buck. Nevada, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Exciting times around Ohio State. Lots of stuff happening. And I got to tell you, the message board right now is so much fun to be on. It's like you go on the board, there's a new topic being churned up like every 60 seconds. Every time I refresh, there's another post, another thing to respond to. And this is the best time of the year, and I'm just having a ball. It's the best.
It really is. What's up to our regulars, Brass Tacks, Sue? I see all you guys in here. Appreciate you guys being in here every night. But no, I agree. Like, the message board is absolutely on fire. If you guys have never been a part of a message board culture, like, we run a nice, clean message board. It's a blast to be on. Tons of buzz, a lot of nuggets on expansion, a lot of nuggets on what's going on inside of camp. Been a lot of access in camp. We've had a lot of people inside camp seeing what's going on. Nevada, you've heard a lot. I've heard a lot. There's been a lot of access the last few days. What are some of the key takeaways from what you've heard inside the Woody Hayes the last couple of days of training camp?
Well, we've talked about this kind of the shuffle that's been going on the offensive line. And, I think as a result, the helping technician, who's one of our insiders, had a great nugget. And, he made a really great point. It was a really, really smart point. He was talking about how, if you think about the essence of defense is really about creating chaos and blowing stuff up and causing disorganization. And so a defense can really thrive in a chaotic type of situation. But, an offense is about synchronicity and about coordination and about rhythm and about guys, operating in concert with each other. So when there's chaos on the offensive side, whether it be switching guys around, guys changing positions, guys moving in and out, like they've been having set up on this two-field setup, it really can really affect the offense. And so as a result, what you're seeing is a defense that we thought was going to be ahead is ahead, and an offense that was going to be behind is behind. And I think it's just kind of it's the nature of the beast in terms of the way they've kind of set up spring camp. They've talked about how spring camp's a little bit looser than it's been in years gone by, and it was interesting to me. I've always kind of envisioned spring camp as being kind of this Stalag 13 kind of grind, and apparently that's not the way that this one's being run. Ryan's kind of letting it off the gas a little bit there, and then we've got this quarterback situation where my position on this has been since day one. I thought that Kyle McCord was going to take the first snap, but that Devin Brown would probably take the last snap. And what that means is that at some point, I think Devin Brown's going to grab the starting job and not look back. And whether that happens early in the season, middle of the season, late in the season, or whatever the circumstances are, that's always been my position. That's an opinion. That's not, set in stone. That's not trying to diss either one of the guys or trying to say anything. But I think Devin Brown has got that little extra dimension that we need. And, I like the element that a running quarterback or a willing running quarterback can give you, especially when you've got a young, offensive line. I think that's just kind of an essential part, and I think that's the way it's going to happen. So I'm not buying Devin's going to be named the starter over McCord. I think McCord's been there too long. He's too big of a team leader. He's been there for years waiting for a start. I don't think they're going to do that to him. Now, having said that, tomorrow morning they can announce that Devin Brown's the starter and all for naught. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think McCord's going to get the first snap, but I think there's going to be a very short leash, and I think ultimately Devin's going to be the guy because I think Devin's outperformed Kyle for during this fall camp. But I think it's not just a one practice thing. I think it's been a steady thing. I think Kyle's been responsible with the ball. but he's just not pushing the ball down the field. He's checking it down a lot, and I think Ryan wants to push the ball down the field a little bit more, take some of those deeper shots, and I think he likes what Devin can bring him, and ultimately that's going to carry the day. But I'm not in the camp that thinks it's going to be a first week thing. Now we'll see. Reserve the right to be wrong. Reserve the right to change my mind. But that's how I see the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think Devin's just more talented. I think he's got it factor, moxie, whatever you want to call it. But the biggest thing he has is, again, I've showed this play multiple times on this show. They run this read option in the goal line. I know that we're not a big read option team anymore, but you're reading this guy right here, and he misses the read. He should give this here because the guy's static, but instead he pulls it, and even with the missed read, he just puts his foot in the ground and does this and breaks this guy's ankles and goes there. And like, that's special. Like, I'm sorry, but like when a guy can do that, that's so hard to defend against. And then this next play, this is kind of what it could look like this year. Again, we're not, and again, not denigrating the O-line this year, but they're not going to be as good as last year when we had Paris and Dewan. Paris and Dewan is probably the best pair of tackles we've had since Pace and Stringer. I freely admit that. I think they're fantastic. You see how good Dewan's on with the Browns. Paris balled out the other day for the Cardinals. Luke Whippler is going to make the Browns as well. So we're going to be a little more rickety and a little more roughshod on the O-line. So when the pocket breaks down, even though this is Utah football, this is not great football, but this is the stuff he's going to be dealing with. He's going to be dealing with guys getting beat. This is Jimmy, first time ever playing left tackle. He's never played left tackle in his life until 3 days ago. He said that. So can you do it in the duress? Like, this is duress right here, and he steps up, eyes downfield, makes a play. Now, do I want it to be rickety in the pocket? No. But when we play good teams, like real teams, and it's loud, it's going to happen. I'm just telling you, like, we're not going to be as good on the O-line as we were last year just because the talent isn't as high, because we lost 3 guys early to the draft. Like, we've had more attrition on the O-line than any team in the history of college football over the last 3 years. I mean, Nick Petit left early, Dewan left early, Paris left early, Luke Whippler left early. I've never seen anything like it, honestly. So, eventually, you're going to be playing some guys that don't have a lot of starts when you have all these guys that leave early. So I think the line can be very good. I think that our defensive line is probably a top 2 or 3 defensive line in the country. So, when there's people going to practice saying that they got worked over, I'm like, well, yeah, because they're playing against maybe the best defensive line in the country. It's usually probably us or Georgia. But I think that his mobility is going to be something that we're going to need when it's loud. We're on the road. You got a couple of tackles making their first career starts in loud environments. Like, that's hard to do. Even if you're Josh Fryer, I mean, Josh has been around the block for a long time, but he hasn't played a lot of football. I mean, he's been the extra tight end, and he played a game last year where he started for Dewan against Indiana. But it's just different when you go on the road in the Big Ten and you got to play at Notre Dame, you got to play at Wisconsin, at Michigan. You better have a quarterback that can make plays if it breaks down. And when we went up to Michigan, we had Troy, like, he saved our bacon a few times where he took off and ran. So I know what that does to a defense, and that's the element that I'm excited about with Devin Brown. There are people very high up in the Woody Hayes that think that Devin Brown could have a humongous year this year. So it's not just conjecture. It's not just smoke. It's not just clickbait. This is a real thing. And I'm actually really excited about it because it proves that it's a real competition. Because I've been around quarterback competitions that weren't real and they're a facade and they're kind of predetermined. But this doesn't feel like it. Now, I still think Colin McCoy is going to be the day one starter. But the way the schedule sets up with 3 Humpty Dumptys to start off with, Indiana, Youngstown, and Western Michigan or Western Kentucky, Devin Brown's going to get in, and he's going to get in early because we're probably going to be up by a bunch, or they're going to rotate in, and Devin Brown can get in there and tear it up. So that's going to be something that's going to be a little different. You're not going to be playing Notre Dame week 1 and sticking with whoever your quarterback is because you don't want to be doing the rotational thing in a big game. Like, we got 3 patsies to start off, so it's going to be interesting. Nevada, how do you see the first 3 games playing out before we head to South Bend? Do you think there's any chance they rotate snaps, or is it just going to be a straight up, McCord until it's a blowout and then Devin Brown goes in?
No, I think it's definitely going to be it won't be a rotation. It won't be a 1-1-1-1, but it'll be, I think whoever the backup, and I'm just predicting it's going to be Brown, is going to have designated times when he's going to come. He's going to come in the third possession or the second possession of this time, and the third possession. They're going to have it all scripted out. They're going to have them ready. But I think they're not going to do the throw one guy in there and let the other guy just kind of pick up the scraps and the score is 55-0. They're going to get him in when the game's still relatively close because they want to see what they have, and they have to see what they have. And I think it's a smart move. And the challenge is going to be, as you said, the first three games the teams we're playing are really going to be overmatched, and so it's going to be a defensive showing by Ohio State. So you're going to have to get it going pretty early because the games could get out of hand. Once the defense starts to exert itself, create some turnovers, do some things where you're getting good field position, that those games could get out of hand quickly. So Ohio State's going to have to get those guys in early and see what they can do because that's something that they didn't do last year. And I think we're the worse off for it. I think that's been one of my main criticisms of Ryan Day is that I don't think he's gone to his backups early enough. I mean, there were some times last year that were absolutely embarrassing. There were times last year where it was, I mean, you'd have to check the score, but it might have been 50-7 or something like that, and you still had C.J. Stroud in there throwing passes, and I never understood that. I will never understand that. I mean, I get it. I can get, he wants the stats, he wants to get him the Heisman, he wants to get him to New York, whatever it is. But I thought it was silly, and I hope he doesn't replicate that mistake. I hope as a young coach he's evolved and learned something from it because I'd sure like to have more information than what I have right now because the information that we have right now on McCord from what we've seen in games, from what we've seen in practice, from what we've seen in the spring, what we've seen this fall, it's just okay. It's fine. He's a game manager and it's fine. But do we need more than a game manager? Do we need more than a guy that's willing to check down and go to the outlets and a guy that's willing to, go to his third option and then tuck it and run it for 4 yards? Do we need more of a playmaker at the quarterback position? And Devin Brown's that. I mean, Devin Brown is a playmaker, and he's a guy that'll take some more chances, and he'll do some things, and he'll push the ball, and he'll run, and certainly more dynamic athletically. But will he be responsible when the games start for real? Will he be turning the ball over? Because ultimately, that's what's going to kill Ohio State this year. We're only going to go as far as our quarterback play takes us. I think every other position, including the O-line, is going to be fine. But we need to find the answer on the quarterback position. And is that answer a more inexperienced Devin Brown who's a little bit more dynamic, or a more veteran, conservative Cal McCord who may not have the upside of a Devin Brown? And I guess we're going to find out, and we'll know in 17 days.
Yeah, and I really think the ability of the tackles to pass protect has got to factor into the decision. I'm telling you, Kyle McCord is not very mobile. Devin Brown can scoot, and that matters. Now, granted, like I said, the first three games we're not going to be tested really on the edge, or if we are, then we're really in trouble. But I think that's something that you have to take into account for is like if we can hold up on the edges, I think we'll be able to eventually. But again, compared to last year when you had Paris and Dewan, like those guys were shut down. Both gave up, I think, 1 or 2 sacks each on the season, which is phenomenal given how many attempts we had. So I mean, I think that could factor into it. I mean, I've been told Kyle McCord is a statue back there, and Devin Brown can get out of stuff and create a little bit. So that's going to be something that's going to be worth watching. I think that the line stuff has to stop. I don't know why they're doing this to these kids where they're switching guys that have played one position or a couple positions during spring ball, and then they switch them all the way around. Like Tigra playing left tackle, I think makes absolutely no sense. I think he's a guard all the way. Maybe a right tackle in a pinch. I just don't think he can pass protect enough to play right tackle proficiently. I think that moving Luke over to right doesn't make any sense to me either. I think I'd keep him at left. I'd maybe put George Rosen as the backup at right behind Josh Fryer. But it's been really strange the last 2 years how, like this time last year, Josh Fryer was the right tackle backup, Zen was the left tackle backup, and then you start camp and Zen's the starting right tackle, then he gets beat out, they move Josh to right tackle, and they put Jimmy at left tackle after he started off right tackle. Like, I'm getting confused just saying it out loud. Imagine having to be a player and they're flip-flopping all over the place, and like you have to block JT or Jack or Kenyatta or Caden Curry, who's really coming on and really doing well. and you don't know what side of the ball you're going to be on every time. Like, that's really hard to do. I mean, you guys can Google Tristan Wirfs is probably one of the 5 best tackles in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers switched him from right tackle to left tackle this year. He's an Iowa kid, top 10 pick, will probably be an $80 million extension tackle. And he had to see a psychiatrist about switching from right tackle to left tackle. And he's literally one of the best tackles in the NFL. He's all pro. He's a Pro Bowler. And they switched him sides. And it's that hard to do, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not hard for everybody, but it's hard for 95% of the players. It's hard to get down and switch your feet. And then, you go out to practice that day and you get absolutely bulldozed by JT or Jack or Kenyatta. And it's not good for these kids. I'm telling you, like, I disagree with it. I think you got to put some of these, especially the young guys, put them at one spot, let them be good at that. And then you can maybe mix it up, in the spring. I think that if you're going to do the changing around and all this craziness, like, do that in spring ball. I mean, spring ball, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to get a lineup set. You can, do science experiments with your rotations nonstop, but I don't know. They got to figure out an O-line quick. I think that it's going to be, they want Jimmy Simmons to win that left tackle job. You can tell, especially after they moved Luke, because I felt like Luke was his biggest competition at left tackle, or George Fitzpatrick. And those guys are both playing right tackle now. They're flip-flopping them all over the place. So I don't know who Jimmy's competition is. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to put Zen over there, but I think they're just trying to hand him the job, and they want Josh to play right tackle, which is where he should have been from the start. Like, he never looked comfortable at left tackle. He actually looked awful at left tackle in the spring game, so I don't know why they even tried him over there, but maybe he wanted to do it, or maybe they felt like he was the most veteran tackle so that they'd do it. But I could tell after watching a few snaps and watching some practice stuff that he just doesn't look comfortable over there. And he looks really comfortable at right tackle, so you might as well try someone else out there. Nevada, do you think that they'll shake out the line as the one I projected for game 1 versus Indiana, barring injury?
I mean, I'd say yeah, but I mean, I don't want to really say anything with any certainty, because I got to be honest, I've never seen anything like what they're doing on the offensive line, and I don't understand it. Now, is this a Philbin influence? Is this because the direction is coming from Ryan Day. The direction is coming from Ryan Day. The direction is coming to the coaches, to the players. This is a Ryan Day direction. Now, where he's getting this from, I don't know. And so I haven't been able to source that out yet, but it's something coming from Ryan Day. They definitely want those guys stressed, and they definitely want to play them a different position. So I would imagine it would shake out that way, come game 1. But right now it's anybody's guess, and I think that's what's so confusing. I think you're spot on, though. They want Jimmy Simmons to be the left tackle. And I think Luke, I've always felt that Luke might take that job at some point. I said earlier on a podcast that I felt that if he ever got the shot, he might take the starting job and not give it up. But I always saw him on the left side, not the right side. But we'll see what Ohio State's. I think we've got more right tackles that are natural guys that are on the right side that seem obvious that could fit in there. Luke, to me, seems like more of a classic left tackle type. But hey, we'll see. Best 5 are going to play. I guess they're going to try to find the best 5 by going through this kind of chaotic, stressful mishmash of guys throughout the fall camp. But I hope they lock it down here in the next few days and try to come up with some sort of a 2 deep that makes sense. But when they do, I would imagine it would go Simmons, Jackson, Hinsman, Jones. I'm still going with Fryer at right tackle, and we'll see how close that gets to be spot on.
Yeah, and honestly, I could see some of those guys rotating on the O-line going into the season. Like, I could see Carson Hinsman. I think that they're trying to force him to win the job, but I don't think he's grabbing the baton and running with it. And Vic Cutler and him are kind of rotating with the ones right now. So it's really interesting. I mean, I can see that those both, like I said, when you play 3 patsies to start the season with Indiana and Youngstown State and Western Kentucky, like, you can rotate guys in earlier. You don't have to wait till you're up by 49 points before you put in the 2s. And if I'm Justin Fry, I'm rotating, Cutler and Hinsman, at center, maybe every 3 series or so, just to see what they can both do. Because I'm not convinced either of them have really grabbed the baton yet. And the tackles, literally, all it's going to come down to is pass protection. The guards are locked in. It's done. It's over. It's honestly really interesting because the Enoch Mamahi is just kind of in La La Land as the second team guard as a fifth year guy, but that's kind of what they're going with. I mean, again, if I had my druthers, I'd have put Matt at center and put Enoch at right guard, but I'm guessing Matt wanted to play guard and didn't want to play center. So they had to respect that. And I think it's the same thing with Donnie. Donnie didn't want to play tackle, so he's not repping at tackle when he's playing left guard. And that's fine. But, if I'm Justin Fry and Jimmy Simmons, his footwork gets wonky, or maybe he's a better protector at right tackle where he played last year, then I put Donnie out there and I put Enoch in at left guard. Again, that's like the combination I'm surprised we haven't seen, because we have a lot of young guys who haven't played at all on the edge. And that's terrifying to me, because I'm telling you, like, tackle is a million times harder than guard. You have less help and you're playing better athletes, so there's less space. But it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Nevada defensively, again, it's been yeoman's work for the D-line up front. Caden Curry is getting a ton of buzz. He's a guy that is really coming on. First Step is back, it seems, after he's cut weight after gaining weight last year. He kind of has a kind of a wonky frame because he's not super tall, but he's got a motor and a burst, and he was real productive when he played last year. Between him and Kenyatta, who do you think is more productive out of the two? Obviously, Kenyatta's had a lot of splash plays, but I think his knock is inconsistency. Throughout camp, he'll do the big splash play, the big sack, and then he'll mess up a couple plays in a row, is what I've been told. Caden, steadier, but he's got an explosive first step. Like, the explosion is back in Caden. What do you project from the second crew? Caden's been trying to D-tackle too, which I don't think he can hang in there, because I think he's only about 260. He's going to get rocked if he goes down to D-tackle. But what do you project from the second team D-line and maybe some of the reserves? Because we saw our boy Cody Simon made the silver bullet of the day a few days ago. He's a guy that I've loved for years. He's a 4.5 flat guy, and he's had major shoulder issues, and he's been stuck behind Tommy and Steele. But I think him and CJ are as good as any linebackers in the country, and definitely the two best backup linebackers in the country. But what do you see from some of the depth pieces on the defense?
Yeah, well, I think this fall camp they've been really emphasizing resting a lot of the veterans, whether that's the whatever 1,000 play club, 10,000 play club, million minute club, whatever the heck it is. But they've been doing a good job of Mile High Club, whatever it was. I got a great story about that. So I'll tell you a great story about that. So, oh God, yeah, good times. But no, I think with I think they've been doing a good job of rotating the younger guys, and I think as a result, as you went right to four guys. It'd be my four guys with guys like Cody Simon, C.J. Hicks, and Caden and Kenyatta. We've got guys that can play, and I've been saying. And I was one of the lone voices saying this. I think people are kind of picking up the refrain now. I'm like, the defense is going to be the strength of the team. And I know that we had all the let's fire Knowles, the $2 million man stuff. Well, that stuff's going to stop, man, because the defense is good. This is a very, very good Ohio State defense. And, as you mentioned, when you've got backups that can play on top of your frontline guys, that just, one, it increases your competition in practice. Two, it gives you flexibility in the games to be able to move guys in there. Three, it protects you against problems with injury or with other, illness or sickness or just bad play or whatever it might be. But we got a lot of guys that can play. And, I think we've got, they've done such a great job with bringing in guys like Davison, guys like Jihad, from the portal that are not just portal guys, but high impact portal guys. And that's really to their credit, because you think about that, that's two starters out of your 11. And, it's over 20% of your defense right there, 18% of your defense, 19% of your defense that you've got out of the portal. And so, no, I think the young guys are really going to – I think what you're going to see with this defense this year is when they go to the backups, you're not going to see – normally you can watch it when the Ohio State goes to the backups, the defensive play kind of drops off precipitously. And if you're betting the under, that you start holding your breath because you see the other team marching down the field and stuff like that. I don't think you're going to see that this year. I think the defense is going to be pretty stout. Certainly up on the first part of the defense, but I think the second team is really good, really, really talented. We've been saying this all along. This is a very, very deep Ohio State team. They've got a lot of flexibility. They've got a lot of different options. They can bring it to you in a lot of different ways. They've been working a lot of different sets. They've been working with these 3 down lineman sets and bringing kind of the 2 stand-up guys off the edge. They've been working with the traditional 4. But, they can get pressure with 4. They don't need to blitz. And that means you bring in 3 defensive linemen, you bring in a Sonny Styles off the edge, or you bring a C.J. Hicks off the edge, you bring a Cody Simon who's a really really adept blitzer. They've got some guys that can get it done, and I think the defense is going to be the story of this year, and it's going to be fun to watch. And that's the thing that I'm most excited about seeing is watching the return of the Silver Bullets, and it happens in 2023.
Yeah, I really think it's critical to get guys like CJ Hicks and Cody Simon in these games early. Maybe not Indiana, but those next 2, man, you got to get those guys in early. I think Tommy and Steele obviously are going to have fantastic years. I think Tommy could be, the Butkus Award winner. But, I think that CJ has a gear that those guys frankly don't have, and it's something that you need to use him as an attacking weapon on your defense. I'm really nervous about Tyleek. Tyleek has missed a lot of time. Tyleek is a weight guy in terms of he can blow up fast and gain weight fast. And, when weight guys get injuries, it's really tough because I'm telling you, when you can't work out, when you have a leg injury and they're just trying to get, keep you fit, I'm sure they've got him on a pretty strict diet, but, he needs conditioning. And I'm telling you, there's nothing that gets you in shape for playing football games other than practicing football. You can run a lot of wind sprints, but you got to get in the groove of these games. You got to be in these scrimmages. You got to get kind of calloused, I guess. You beat up a little bit. And he's missing all that. I used to, I had a few injuries in my career. I got hurt in the middle of the season in 05, and I hated it. Like I hated 3 weeks I couldn't play because I had a knee torn MCL, grade 3, full tear, and I couldn't play. I couldn't practice, and I just went and did the Stairmaster all day during practice so I could try to keep my conditioning levels up. But it's hard to keep stay in football shape when you're not playing football. So I worry a little bit about that interior, man, because I don't feel Canu's ready for prime time. He needs to be. But when I hear they're putting Caden Curry in at D tackle, man, I'm like, man, he's a little runt and he's going to get rocked if he goes down there with the big dogs. Cause you're down there in that 3 technique spot, man. You're going to get rocked by a tackle, a guard, bigger, heavier guys, usually on the interior. He's more of an edge guy, but I think that with the depth issues, man, they're trying to figure out what's the best, position for guys and where do you put guys where you can get the most pass rush, because if Caden can win against a guard, great, there's a role for him. Because I think that one of the biggest things that they're trying to get is more pressure on the quarterback and more hands on footballs. And they're getting their hands on footballs. Kyle McCord threw at least 2 interceptions on Monday. And they were bad interceptions. They weren't like the DB went up and climbed the ladder and made some great play. They were bad picks. But that's encouraging considering the fact that our DBs or our corners had 0 picks last year. So these guys are starting to play the ball better. Obviously they're going against some of the best route runners in the country with Marvin and Emeka. Carnell Tate has just been absolutely phenomenal in camp. He's a guy that probably is going to end up being our number 3 wide receiver eventually. I'm sure that the ceremonial guy will be Julian Fleming. But I think Carnell's going to pass Jaden Julian by the middle to end of the season. I think his freshman year will end up being like, kind of like what Emeka and Marvin, turned into at that Rose Bowl. By the end of the year, they were like, as good as anybody in the country. And then it just kind of spawned into what they were last year. Nevada, are there any other?
Yeah. Let me just say, I think you hit on a really good point. I want to make this point. We always try to emphasize in these podcasts, we're trying to give you something, a little bit of something that you don't get anywhere else, to make you a little bit smarter. Tyleek's on a razor's edge right now. Tyleek's kind of at an inflection point where he's got to either go or not go, but like it's touch and go with him. We came into the season thinking Jack, JT, Mike Hall, Tyleek, well, that's our forward, that's our guys, that's the horses we're riding. And I'm telling you, Tyleek's really at a critical point in his development, critical point in terms of his play here at Ohio State. And it's something to keep an eye on because he's got to get it done. He's got to get on the field and he's got to get in shape, and that hasn't happened. And that's the bad news. Now the good news is Tyron Malone's way better than I thought he was. I wasn't sure when that guy came in that he was going to be able to play. He was a guy that Ohio State was really high on coming out of high school. Went down, played baseball on top of playing college football, which is a really tough double. It's tough to double in any sport, but those two sports in particular. But he's been really good, and that is a massive human being, and I think he's going to be one of the answers on the interior line because he's a load and he can play. And I think he's been one of the pleasant surprises of the fall. Well, if Tyleek's been a bit of a disappointment, for all the reasons we talked about, Malone's been a surprise and a positive one.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see what we get out of him, given that he gave up baseball. Now he's full-time football. Kind of stunning the lack of production at Ole Miss, given that he didn't really have anyone in front of him. So it wasn't like he had a couple first-rounders in front of him, and he didn't really play much. But, again, when you get into the system here, you get to play next to Mike and JT. That makes your life a lot easier when you play next to Mike Hall, JT. Ty Hamilton is the ox. He's like the bell cow of the defense. And he's a guy that he's always there. He's humongous, absolutely humongous. He's like Devin. I mean, Devin, you get $40 million extension with the Jaguars, and Ty's gonna be the same guy. Like people, they'll never be all buzzed up about him like they are JT or Jack or Tommy or Marvin Harrison, but he's gonna be one of these guys. He'll get drafted in like the second or third round. He'll sign like a $60 million extension in the league. And you'll be like, wow, that guy played at Ohio State. Like Draymond was really good here, and like nobody really cared. And then he's one of the highest paid free agents this past year. That's what Ty's going to be. And again, Ty is kind of the opposite of Tyleek, which is kind of funny because they have like the same name, for a nickname or whatever, Ty. But Ty is he's there every day, hardest worker on the team, absolutely impeccable fitness. Just a war daddy, a guy that you love having guys like that on your team, guys that you don't have to worry about. They're never late to anything. They do everything the right way, and they're just grinders. They're just tough. They're tone setters. And Tyleek's the guy who's got the ability to be a top 15 pick, but he just doesn't have the mentality yet. And he's not a young guy anymore. He's a true junior now. So it's not like he's a freshman and, he's just old, whatever. He's got to get rolling. And, when you get these little nagging injuries, when you're not established, if you're Marvin or you're Jack Sawyer, someone you get a little nagging injury, they can hold you out. But when you're Tyleek and you're really not established yet, other than your name and your hype, like you got to go fight and play through that, as best you can. And I think that's something that's frustrating to the coaches is, when guys don't take their conditioning as seriously as they need to, and they get these little nagging injuries, then it's like, oh, here we go again, So that's just kind of the real stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I've sat in those staff meetings. I've listened to the medical reports. I know how the coaches react. You can have the exact same, if a guy strains a hamstring and one guy's Marvin Harrison and another guy's the guy who hasn't played, isn't a player or is young or whatever, like there's two totally different reactions, and that's how it should be. Like Marvin Harrison, if he strains his hamstring, he's not practicing until we take the field in Bloomington. He might even practice that week. He'll just take the field that Saturday. But for younger guys, I mean, you got to kind of push them along and teach them, hey, you're not injured. You're just hurt. There's a big difference between being injured and hurt. That's what my high school coach used to always say. And he's right. I mean, you gotta suck it up and go. I mean, there's a lot of guys at this point in camp, everybody is hurt. Everybody has blisters on their feet. They've got, a shoulder, an ankle, a knee. Everybody feels like trash at this point in camp. They can't wait for camp to be over, but it's here and it's a necessary evil. And honestly, it's easier than it's ever been because they don't have doubles anymore. They used to have 2 days. You have to have 2 of these full padded practice. Now they just have 1. So he's kind of got to suck it up and go. And I think that not having 2 days is a huge, it's something that really hurts Tyleek because he can't catch up because like every day he misses, like there's so many fewer practices than there used to be. Like, so when you're missing them, man, you're missing a lot of work. So hopefully he can get back and get something done in the scrimmage, but the sand is falling out of the hourglass and we need him. Like you need depth in the Big Ten. You need depth at defensive tackle. Cause when you get to October and you got to go play Camp Randall and they're going to run the ball at you and you go to Michigan, like you better have some D tackles in there cause they're going to be combo blocking you into infinity. So, you need guys to be able to rotate in there and kind of take some of the heat off. Nevada, any other guys of mention? Like I said, I'm really excited about the corners too. Like I think Davison Benosa is going to be fantastic. Again, he's not scared of anything. He's a dog. He's a guy that The people I talk to, they love him. They think he's a great kid. He assimilated right into the group. He worked really hard. That's really all I really want to hear from a guy, is that that's how he was. He wasn't kind of a turd when he showed up. But what are your thoughts on some of the corners right now? Because Denzel looks great too. I mean, I had someone say he looks absolutely fantastic. He's not hurt, jacked up. It's funny. These guys all get jacked when they're draft eligible. They start eating better and working out more and hitting the cold tub a little bit. So, what are your thoughts on the corners?
Well, Denzel and I mean Jordan Hancock. Jordan Hancock has been absolutely superb, and it's been something we've all been waiting for. Guy is super highly regarded coming out of high school, and just hadn't been able to put it together. Hadn't been able to, even when he had his moments, looked a little lost out there. Boy, he doesn't look lost anymore. I mean, he looks like he's got it figured out. And when you do that, when you've got options at cornerback, it just enables you to do so many different things with your defense. And these guys are going up against the best wide receiver group in the country. I mean, we're talking about young wide receivers, and I mean, Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis on top of the absurd talent that we already had, and Noah Rogers. I mean, you could just go on and on. I mean, you're as a defensive back, you're just forced to get better, because every guy that you go up against, every rep, the first guy, the second guy, the third guy, the fourth guy, they're all just superb route runners. And I think that's one of the hidden benefits of having this just obscene run of recruiting talent that we're getting at the wide receiver room, is that the defensive backs are just forced to kind of either step up or step out, because you're going up against the best every single day in practice, and it's just forcing you to be better.
Who are your two starting cornerbacks? I want you guys in the chat to type in who are going to be your two starting corners. I'll go Denzel. I really want to go Hancock. I'd rather go Davison Igbinosun, so I'm going to go Denzel Igbinosun. I think it'll be Denzel Hancock, but I'd like it to be Denzel Igbinosun just because I like Davison's game. Who are you going with, Nevada?
Yeah, I got Denzel Hancock, and I think they like Davison in the slot more, and that's almost a base set for them. So I think he's gonna be out there a lot, and I think people get caught too much up on the designations about slot and boundary and weak side, strong side, adjusters. I think it's, man, just find the best 11, put them out there. It's all going to be situational anyway. And a guy like Davison, who's so good against the run, so good against the pass, real physical presence, they're a real willing tackler. Just gives you so many options on your defense. I think he's going to be out there a lot, and we're going to need all the defensive backs to be good, because it's a long season and you got to cover a lot of guys. And I think just a huge acquisition. So he's going to help a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how much depth there is and how much competition there is at corner. So I think let me see. So this is a question. This is what I would do. David, I'm glad you asked this question. He said, Kirk, do you see a bigger commitment to the run game earlier in the season? If I was the offensive coordinator, I would absolutely run the crap out of the ball to start the season. And I know that everyone's going to roll their eyes because we have Marvin and Emeka. But I'm just telling you, man, I've been an offensive lineman. I've coached offensive linemen. I know the best way to get confidence going in offensive linemen is to run the football. Make it 2nd and 3. Make it 2nd and 4. Make it 2nd and 5. Come off the ball. Let these guys get a little bit of fervor. Let them get a little bit of confidence. Like when you pass block all day, you're not really setting the tone like you do in the running game. And I'm telling you, like for some of these guys that are going to have butterflies that are the size of dinosaurs in them, like let them come off the ball and run the ball a little bit. Let Trey get hit a few times. Let him get his legs going. I mean, Trey ripped off like a 70-yard run in the scrimmage during the scrimmage setting. It wasn't really like a scrimmage on Saturday. And that was great. I was like, that's awesome for Trey. And obviously, we gashed the defense at some point, and he split safeties somewhere, so he's able to get to the crib. But I think coming off the ball and running the ball is a great way to get the confidence, because I feel just from the interviews, the confidence on the O-line isn't high right now. I think that these guys are a little shook up just because they're playing, 8 different positions, and there's no chemistry or symmetry to what they're doing, and it's confusing to these guys. So I think once they finally settle on a 5, we got to build these guys up a little bit and get them confident before they go to South Bend. And that's what I would do. Now, again, I know that we're the chuck and duck offense and we're going to throw it 75 times a game because that's just what we do. But that doesn't help the O line out, and when you have, and it's a lot easier to do it, frankly, when you have Paris and Dewan as your two tackles. When you got two guys that are brand new, I wouldn't be dropping back there having them pass protect 40 times a game. Because it only takes one or two bad ones and you give up one or two sacks and then their confidence is completely shot. So that's my opinion. I think coming off the rock and blocking and, I'd love to see more double teams. I'd love to see more power. I know we won't do that. We'll be doing stretch and the like, but it's just my opinion as to what I would do. Nevada, what would you do if you were the offensive coordinator? That's kind of I know you'd probably just run 4 verticals every play, like in Madden or X looky or whatever. What's the play on Madden that Funky runs with Lamar Jackson over and over again?
Peak zone bubble or peak bubble funky or whatever. Yeah, what the heck that is. But no. Here's what I would do. This is a serious answer to what you're saying because it's a little bit of a twist on what you're saying. Like when Ohio State comes out, lately when we come out, when we're like, okay, let's come out and let's establish the run, right? We go the 2 tight end look. We bring in the guy. We kind of point, Justin Fry points. We're going to run right here. And his daughter stands up in the stand and goes, my daddy's going to run right there over that slide. And then we run into a brick wall. And then now it's, second down and 11. And everybody's complaining about the offensive line or whatever it is. It's like, how about run a little deception? You know what I'm saying? Like line up in your 2 tight end look or whatever it is, do the thing, and then fake the run and have the quarterback bootleg out the backside with a little, release pass to the tight end or just run around there. Do something to constrain the guys to begin with and then start running and punch them in there. But don't just do the obvious, we're going to tell you where we're going. We're going to run into the walled city thing because that annoys the heck out of me. The running into the walled cities thing annoys the heck out of me because it makes the offensive line look bad. It makes the quarterback look bad. It makes the running backs look bad. It makes everybody look bad. And it seems like some sort of bizarre test of manhood when you can just like make it really simple with, hey, let's run some bootleg action off of that. And if they commit everybody to the point attack, the guy's going to come out the backside and run for 25 yards and shame on them for doing it. And I'll do it a second time again just to make sure they saw it so that they don't do it again. And that's what I would do as an offensive coordinator. I'd be heavy on deception. I'd be heavy on constraint. And I wouldn't be doing my daddy's going to run behind the right guard stuff because I think that stuff went out in 1974 and should never be seen again. And anybody that ever says that in a press conference, introductory or not, should be immediately fired and dismissed from Ohio State. But that's my opinion.
You're brutal. Oh my God. I agree. Like the lack of constraint drives me absolutely crazy because again, we give the look of the read option, but we never actually pull it. So eventually it's like the boy who cried wolf, except the offensive version, and people stop believing it. And then they just crash down and kill the backside end that we don't block. So, the plays where it's a designed handoff with the fake, it's just, they're worthless. I mean, you got to either read it or you got to tag an RPO on it, but that's just my opinion. Again, when I see these ends chase down the backside, it just absolutely kills me because literally they're never going to respect the quarterback if he never pulls it, which is partly the reason I want Devin Brown, who's actually excellent at running the read option, to run a little bit of read option. Because again, I'm not saying we turn into Braxton Miller 2013 read option half the offense. I'm talking about just run it 5 times a game. And then all of a sudden the constraint is there and people respect it. So that changes everything when all of a sudden you've got guys that are actually, oh wow, this guy actually might pull it. And if he pulls it, he runs a 4.5, 4.6, whatever Devin Brown is, and he's quick and he can go get 8 yards and make it 2nd and 2. Because I'm just telling you, the key to like making life easy on the offensive line is staying on schedule. Make it 2nd and 5. Make it 2nd and 4. Make it 2nd and 6. Don't make it 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 15. Like that's where it gets hard. So you get to that 3rd and 15 and you're going to see some sort of exotic blitz, some sort of simulated pressure, or you're going to see games twist. The best pass rush here, the NASCAR package or whatever. So, when it's 3rd and 2, they can't get as exotic unless they want to risk getting creased by our running game. So again, I just love staying on schedule. I think that we've got the running backs to do it. I think you got to feed these running backs. You got to get them touches because we really don't throw to our backs as much as you think we would. So, I think with a guy like Trey's got to get 15 carries a game at least. So hopefully we'll get that for him. Well, We're going to wrap this show. Nevada, you have any parting shots? Devin Brown Smoke Edition to the people of Buckeye Scoop?
No, I just think it's just like I said, real excited about where the defense stands right now. And I think the offense is just, I think the helping technician had come out and said, look, we're just going to have to be patient with the offense. The offense is going to be a work in progress. But we got to remember, we've got the best offensive line, or excuse me, the best running back room that we maybe have ever had. We've got the best wide receiver room that maybe we've ever had. We've got veteran tight ends galore. We just have one. We have one question. We have a question mark at the quarterback position, and we've got Kyle McCord, who's veteran. We know he's a veteran. He's a 5-star kid. It's not like he hasn't played the position. And then you've got Devin Brown, who a lot of people had as the number one quarterback in the country come out of high school. So, and maybe he's Johnny Football, and maybe he's the guy that can go and just create mayhem and just burst onto the national scene and and have upside and do things that we haven't seen in a long time. That I'm excited to see it. That's, to me, the unknown is not the scary part. That's the exciting part of watching college football. And I think this quarterback thing is going to be, it is wide open. As you said, it's a true competition. It's not a coronation. It's something that where they're really, really going out there and slugging it out every day. And may the best man win, because we'll be the better for it.
Couldn't agree more. I'm really excited to see who they go with, and hope it's Devin Brown. Honestly, I think that with his ability to scramble and move, it's going to be a huge add to the offense. So that being said, as always, thank you, all of you, for tuning in. As always, thank you to all the regulars. I see you guys in here. I got Sue. I got Mello. Appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. Always being in here. Thank you guys. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like. Please click subscribe and click on that little bell if you enjoy our live shows, and you'll get a little alert when we go live. So look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. We're going to keep cranking along. We're grinding through training camp just like we're on the team, like we're one of the players. So it's a lot easier when you don't have to actually practice. So I'm just going to say enjoy doing these shows with you guys. Appreciate all your great questions, all your feedback. If you guys want the greatest companion in the world other than Phil Seal's magazine, BuckeyeScoop.com. Our message board is absolutely crazy, on fire. It's a blast right now. We love doing it. We have such great content. We have amazing contributors. Good reports from inside the Woody. We got some crazy stuff coming. So I'm just telling you, like, if you guys like watching college football, like gambling on college football, pro football, it's the most active message board I've ever been a part of. It's probably the most active message board I've ever seen for a true premium community. So I'd love for you guys to join us on there. It's also a great gift. You got any anniversaries, birthdays, special someone, BuckeyeScoop.com. Appreciate you guys. As always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.